Okay, it looks like we're live. Hello, and welcome to the stream. I'm gonna pick up today with our TGC Retrospective. I might finish kind of the course highlight portion of it today. Probably go through the designer for a bit. Um, I think we're over halfway through all of the list of stuff. Um, that I kind of want to look at. I did a little bit of peeking or flipping through some other filters to see if I'm missing anything that I feel like is really, I mean, important might be the wrong word, but like substantial that I'm missing. Either like designers that I haven't highlighted that are, interesting to look at, or um, or just like, stuff that people might recognize or remember. Actually, I don't want to continue the game. I want to restart one. Oh well, it's gonna load and do its thing now. I think I'm stuck. Oh, never mind. I could cancel. I don't know if the servers were always this slow, or if it's just me, or just that they're old and things like that.
Hello there, welcome back to the Golf Club.
Well, I guess it's gonna load up the save. Oh well. I guess I was only on the second hole, so it's fine. Um,
All right, 13-footer here.
I probably won't do like many
Oh,
18 hole highlights from here on out. Um, just kind of sneak peeks and
And
stuff.
in the hole.
Little glimpses, just to keep things moving.
All right, your
There's a lot of
adjusted
courses to
score
cover,
is
and
two over par after
it's
that
great
one.
to get little looks at all of them, but not a ton of stuff requires like really deep attention either. I think I covered this one in kind of my preview stream where I was just doing
Looks
research
like you're
live.
gonna hit some sand here.
So I believe this one was a Griff course. Who kind of a influential name in the early community. Uh, he ran all of the early design contests.
Well,
And
at least you are on the green.
He,
Okay,
the
this one's
reason that
safe
World
par.
Cup is the biggest design contest every year is kind of his thing because he was the one who
Oh.
organized,
All right, we're
well,
close. Let's
all of
put
the
this one in.
contests, but that one,
And
and
let's see how
then
that adds up.
um, you know, uh,
And after that one, your
he'd
adjusted score
gift
is three
like a
over.
watch um, to the winner out of his own pocket. So
That one
naturally,
didn't
it's like
sound
when
right.
there's a prize valued at several $100s. That's a big motivating factor to push people into design contests. And yeah, I don't, like to a certain extent. I don't think we need to like. It's a neat kind of concept, and it was very nice of him to do that. But I also don't really feel like we need to go back to offering like rewards to community members for contests. I think
Out
that
of
would
that
just
fairway
make
bunker, you got some decent distance on there.
as the community grows, and like people's egos getting
This one's
bruised
a
is
beauty.
already enough of a motivating factor to people to kind of throw hissy fits. And when people feel like they've been robbed out of
Very nice.
a cash
Okay, for the
prize that
birdie.
they feel like they deserve, it's only going to get more
Oh,
spicy
that was going
and
to be
and
magnificent.
just kind of insane. So it's like, yeah, I think just the
Okay, let's see what you can do
it's
with
probably a
his 8-footer.
better thing in the long run that there's not more motivation added to like screw with contests or
Let's see how that all
or
adds
just
up.
get like really upset about the results of contests. Ultimately,
And
we're
after
doing
that
all this
hole,
for
5
fun.
over is
So.
your adjusted score.
But yeah, like all things considered, like now I can't remember. I know Griff had a tendency at the time where like
All right, looking good so far.
most of the courses he would build were very heavily based off of real life courses, and like which in my opinion it's not really an
And from
issue.
here,
It's
we're
just
about
more
130
odd that
yards
like
out.
because like his work is real solid in terms of technical stuff. Like it still holds up, I think. it's just more of the. I think a lot of people found it
Looks
odd
like this may be
that
in the
you
deep
know it's
stuff.
like okay, well, like why are you it's sort of just like a weird dishonesty thing of just like okay,
Nice.
well,
All
like
right, 12-footer
no
here.
one would judge you for you saying like, hey, this is based off this course that I like, you know, as opposed to having to claim that it was an original idea of yours.
All right, let's see what the scorecard's saying. And after that hole,
I think
5
he,
over is your adjusted
I think
score.
he ended up leaving the community kind of shortly after that, which, well, I was gonna say double green, very, very, uh, what do you want to call it? Why am I blanking on the name? Pine Valley inspired. So actually, I mean, considering that this one is just a Pine Valley hole, I don't know. Maybe I'm leaning towards this one not being explicitly based on a single real course, unless there's another course out there that
That's going to have to hit something.
that also does a sixth hole, shared green thing as a.
Okay, ended up nice and safe.
Hey man, how's it
Still
going?
a little
Welcome
work to
in.
do, though.
Also, I love how stuttery this is getting. Straight up 25 is probably gonna run better on my computer
5-footer
than this
here,
does,
nothing too
and I don't
bad.
have the settings maxed. It's just hilarious.
Way to drop that putt.
To a certain
And after
extent,
that
I am
hole, 5
surprised
over
at
is
how
your adjusted
well
score.
TGC1 kind of holds up visually. Like, obviously, like, the textures and stuff like that are not, like, they're very simple compared to what we have now. Like, they look so much better.
I don't think this is going to get you there.
But, like, the lighting and the trees and stuff actually looks pretty solid. If you had the updated tree models that we have in the current games in this one that are a little more interesting and have a little more fidelity, I think, like, it would probably look pretty good. But also, it's hilarious how, like, this is a 10-year-old game now, and it still kind of chugs.
All right, but a 3-footer here.
Or we've had 10
Moving
years
right
of
along
development,
here.
and we haven't really required any more system resources than this.
And after that hole, 5 over is your adjusted
All
score.
right, I think I'll give it 2 more holes. This has been a fun little look, but, like, again, the planting on this course is pretty darn good.
Nice, should be in the fairway.
The holes themselves are a little hit or miss for me, but the technical work is all there. This holds up really well in that category. And again, I think that's what Griff was always known for, is
150 yards.
very high-level technical stuff. At a time where it was not common for that
That was a bit
to
of a
be the
poor
case.
swing.
And I think that's, kind of one of the interesting things about, just design in this community is as the technical stuff has gotten more trivial to do, it's no longer.
Ugly lie, but we're almost on the
You're never
green.
going to
Let's keep
stand out
going.
just for technical stuff because, everyone competent can do it now. Whereas it was so fiddly and so hard to do at the time that, just straight up, if you could do all of the technical stuff like this at a high level where you'd get, like, nice edges and
Okay,
like
11-footer
fairway
here.
shapes
This
that
is
made
definitely
sense
makeable.
and, like all of those little things that you don't even have to think about now. Like, that would just set you apart. You could almost win
I'm happy to move
contests
on.
with just a mediocre golf course if you just checked all the technical boxes that nobody
All
else
right,
could
8
do.
over is the adjusted score after that hole.
I think it's probably a good thing that, now we get to focus purely on, the content, like the golf and the design and, maybe what kind of look you can come up with as opposed to technical details being a large, again, I don't think it was like valued higher than it is now. It's just that I might not be able to make this. It's just that it was, so much less common to be able to do it that's how you could separate yourself. I mean, I think, like, I'll probably cover it more in, like, TGC2 era. Like, I have not featured any of my own courses, partially because, like,
Looks like we're about 220 yards out.
Whatever. I'll get to those reasons. But the whole point is, like, I think when I started finishing high and even starting to win contests in TGC2, it wasn't really because, like, the contents or the architecture wasn't, like, stand out. It was more of just the, like, when there's 4 courses in the contest that can do technical stuff at the highest level, then that's a huge bump, and I think that's
Well,
how
you're
I
on the
got.
green. That is decent. To
Yes,
save
the
par.
community is 100% so talented now. All right, actually, I might give this. I guess since I started on hole 2, I will give this a couple more holes so that we do a full 9-hole showcase for it.
Okay, let's head to the next hole.
Yeah, I think not that my course architecture was bad.
All right, 9
I was
over
starting
is
to
the
get a
adjusted
hang of
score
that by
after that
2
hole.
or TGC 2, but it's just significantly better now, and I think kind of in this look back, I'm finding that
good.
as a whole, the average, kind of the quality of the architecture is definitely lower, but I don't think it's bad. There's a lot of interesting or fun architecture showing up in this game, and stuff we'll get to a couple at the end. The highs were just as high. I just think that as a community, there weren't enough people that were kind of knowledgeable about that or into that enough to really
Okay, so we
pick
have
apart
about
why some of those
115
courses work.
yards thereabouts to the pin.
And and we weren't really doing it consistently. Also, part of it is, stuff that's considered good architecture, a lot of width and angles, and just not that it is exclusively that, but
For the bird.
there's just a lot of parts of what makes a good design, both in real life and kind of in the community now, that just didn't really work in TGC 1 because you were so accurate that in order to kind of replicate shot values and things like that, make it play sort of like you'd want it to, you would generally have to,
9 over is the
you're building 15 to 20 yard wide fairways and tiny greens and all these other things because it's trivial to hit the ball laser straight all of the time. There just aren't misses. They just don't exist.
Beauty.
Not really. So it's just what you needed in order for this to play well did not kind of match what makes good architecture outside of the game. I think that's part of it too. It's just what you needed out of courses was so different.
Okay, 11-footer here. This is definitely makeable.
All right, there we go.
Nice, that'll work for par.
We finish up 9 full holes, and I think we've kind of seen enough of this one. It's a fantastic course
9 over
with
is the adjusted score
again,
after that hole.
really high technical skills and very good planting and environment work for the time. It feels kind of plain now, but it kicked some butt at the time. I think I borrowed from some of this for a contest course in the next game that I'll highlight at some point. Alright, so we made it through that one. Because I'm curious, I think this one's a SAM course, and I'm curious to go look at some old SAM courses, because that'll be fun. Do you think the scores will come down for the tours in 2K25 where the top guys figure out how to swing and shoot -60? By coming down, do you mean closer to par or further below par? I guess it depends on where we fall. I think TGC Tours, assuming there aren't any balancing passes, I think it's gonna fall in the it's probably gonna end up in Legend. And I think just from the sneak peek, it's really hard to tell.
Hello there, and welcome
just
to the
because
Golf Club.
we don't know
We're
what the
starting
high
you
level
off
players
on a
look
par
or
4
play
here.
and how much easier that is or not.
Quite a slice onto that one.
Oh. I don't know why I tried to just work it left on purpose instead of just aiming. What was I saying? I think where it stands now, I think the scores are probably going to stay the same, or maybe even get lower. They might shoot more under par. Unless we go to Legend. Oh, if we don't go to Legend, it will 100% they will shoot lower. If we go to Legend, it might be a wash, maybe. But again, we just have the preview. There's tons of feedback, and there's a very significant chance they're going to do some swing balancing as they go. I mean, so after outside of that, it's a complete wash. I think, or just a complete guess as to where we think the state of the game in a couple months will be. All of the old versions of the game, the swing that we have now, and the finished, kind of final versions of the game, is different than what was there at launch. Like, they've always done balancing and tweaking based on like feedback and how people play it and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. And we're all playing Scottsdale on, you know, kind of easy conditions with zero wind. Oh, that was a terrible shot. I have no touch for the short game in this game.
Well, at least you're on the green. That is always good. All right, 14 feet to the hole. Nice putt. You're in there. All right, your adjusted score
So yeah,
is
I
2
will.
over
I'm
par
very
after
much
that
in
one.
a like. We'll just see how it goes.
Looks like you'll be in the short stuff here.
I think the bones of the
Yeah, I stand corrected.
mechanics
It's
are in
the
a good
deep stuff
place.
for you.
like I think there's a potential for some very interesting gameplay if it gets balanced well. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Back on the fairway. I like it.
You don't really know the front nine of Scottsdale, but you've memorized the back nine. Oh, 100%. I mean, to be fair, like, Scottsdale's not really an exciting course. The closing stretch is really kind of the only, like,
Little
memorable part for
five-footer
me.
here,
Like,
nothing too
15
scary.
through the close is, it's
Solid
great
putt for the
kind of
bogey.
TV golf.
I'm glad
You
you made
have,
that.
like, the gettable par 5, then,
And after that one, your adjusted
the
score
stadium
is
hole
3
that
over.
everyone knows because stadium things, and then drivable 4, and then just the closing hole.
You can't hit all
But it's
the
like
fairways.
Scottsdale's just not that exciting of a design. It's outside of kind of the environment that it builds. It's very just unremarkable course. And it's like even the stadium hole, like that par 3, it's not that interesting.
Okay, maybe aim a little more to the left than normal. That
The
ball's sitting
times
above your
of the
feet
year it
here.
exists without the stadium, it's so like unrecognizable and unremarkable. Just the whole grandstands around it are what make that hole. And it's
This one
fine. Like
saved par.
you couldn't build all of that infrastructure out of like a big well, I mean you could build it around an interesting par 3, but you couldn't build
Well,
one
let's
out of
get
like
out of here.
on one that has more scale because it needs to be small
Right,
in order
4
for
over is the
everything
adjusted
to fit.
score after that hole.
So I'm saying I was interested to see this one because I've always sort of like felt that Sam was one of these guys who like was a really good designer in TGC 1 and 2 and like built up kind of a brand and like again was known for being kind of one of the top guys in the community, or at least like a notable member of it, somebody that you would expect to place in contest leaderboards and stuff, and then just kind of like got set in his ways and just like stopped improving sort of as the games went on, and just sort of built the same courses he had built since TGC 1, and then just kind of fell behind and then got angry when it's just like, well, hey, why am I not placing in contests anymore? And then a little,
And we have a
it's
27
like, well,
footer.
the community has
from here to
moved
the cup.
on and improved, and you're kind of doing the same stuff. And to a certain extent, like looking at his TGC 1, or at least this TGC 1 course, it's just like, okay, like
Great putt in there for par.
it's interesting because I feel like comparatively
Right, 4
speaking,
over is the adjusted
the environment
score
building
after
on
that
this course, like this is pretty good environment building for TGC 1, and the architecture, like again, it's very TGC 1. I don't like it. It's a perfectly fine golf course for this game. This is how a lot of them were built. So I'm not throwing shade at him when I say just like, oh, this architecturally is just not that good of a course. It's of its era. Like this makes sense for what the game is. So yeah, it's just like maybe there's a little bit of a real evaluation of like maybe he did learn
Beach
a
to
little bit along
beach,
the way.
Not the happiest of times.
Maybe it was 2019 or something like that when he kind of stopped improving. And like, again, I don't wanna throw shade at, like, it is perfectly fine to just, like, everybody hits a creative plateau at some point. Um, I mean, like, I've struggled to, like, I've done a little bit of the same myself. Like, I peaked in terms of, like, my relevance as a designer probably in TGC2. And I feel like I have continually improved, and I am significantly better of a designer now than I was at the
Okay, 11
time.
footer
But,
here.
like,
This is
the
definitely
community
makeable.
has definitely improved more, and I've gone from being like,
Well, I
oh,
wish
I
the
can
putt
finish in
would
the
just
top
drop
5 of
sometime.
contests all the time, to, like, I'll probably squeak in the top 10.
All right, let's take a look at the old scorecard here.
And that's with me, like, trying and making significantly better
And your
stuff than
adjusted
I used
score
to.
after that
It's just
hole
like, yeah,
is
it's
7
really
over par.
easy to be an old designer and just lose a step. And yeah, if you're not, like, if you get just kind of tired of, like, having to continually
don't think this
change
is
what
gonna
you're
get
doing
there.
to keep up, if that's not part of what, like, excites you about design, and you just want to make, like, comfy stuff that you like, I'm never gonna begrudge anybody for that. Like, I don't think that should be shamed in any way. It's like, hey, like, um, just like,
Okay, let's see what you can
Arctic
do with
Fury
this
is a great
7-footer.
example of, like, the dude just makes his stuff,
Nicely
like,
done for the
you know,
par.
I think he's, everybody improves at least a little bit if you're gonna do it
And your
forever.
adjusted score after that hole
He's
is
been around
7
long
over
enough.
par.
It's like, yeah, he's definitely improved in spots, but it's just like, he does stuff for him. He has his little niche. He stays in his little niche. He likes his thing, and that's great. It's just you know, and always been of the, like, mindset of, like, he's great at what he does. I'd love to see him do, some, like, architecture stuff. And it was like,
was
yeah,
a bit off.
like, but he doesn't have to. You need a B101 Arctic Fury collab. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't think I can do this shot, but we're gonna try. Nope. All right.
Interesting
But-
choice.
But again, I needed to kind of do that anyways. Yeah, and to a certain extent, it's just like, Arctic
Could
Fury
be in
does
the
what he
rough
likes,
here.
and nobody should begrudge him that.
Well, you're in the deep stuff here. I think they call
He
this
makes
the cabbage.
comfy,
Let's
comfy,
just
like,
try to make some
little
solid
picture
contact
courses
and
that
get
he
that ball
likes,
headed in
and
the right
that's
direction.
awesome. And it's just like, so many people could just be happier, I think, if they just, like, stopped worrying about, like, what, like, what the community, or, like, how they
All right,
rank in
14
terms
feet
of, like,
to the hole.
designers and stuff. Like, if that kind of competitive environment and that push to self-improve is not part of what you
Okay,
like
let's
about
see how these
design,
numbers add up now.
but you still worry about, like, what the other people think
Sitting
of your
at
courses
11
and,
over
if
for the
you're keeping up
round.
or not, that's just a recipe to just not have fun. Having fun should be the most important part. And I mean, like, I'm not as competitive as I used to be in terms of, like, scoring and whatnot.
Pretty
but
deep rough
but
here.
that sort of
Not gonna
competitive
sugarcoat
itch
it.
is also part of what I love about design.
It wasn't super clean.
Like, it's a creative outlet for me for sure. I design things that I like and that I want to play. So on that level, like, I very much design for me, but that just kind of buzz of competition is also something I enjoy. And while I don't want every course
Well,
I
I'm
make
just glad
to be a
out of the
contest
deep
course,
stuff.
sometimes
That's
it is
good.
just nice to kind of turn your brain off and just do something relaxing.
Looks
I
like this is
would
a
I
beauty.
feel like I would lose something if I stopped doing contests, because I love that, like, that competitive itch. It scratches that for me.
Okay, let's see what you can do with his 8-footer.
And if you don't have that, and then
Solid
it's
par,
kind of like,
well
yeah,
done.
then just design for you. It's do what makes you happy.
And after
I
9,
think that's
you're not doing
the
too
rambling
bad.
point that
I
I'm trying
think
to
you
make.
could
It's
still
just, hey,
maybe
if
take it up a
you
notch through the back 9 though.
just don't be that guy who gets all wound up about, like, why don't people or
Looking
why
good so
don't I
far?
score in contests anymore? And it's like, well, again, just, like, are you getting anything out of this? Are you going to change and kind of learn and improve? And if you're just, like, straight up like, nah, I'm set in my ways, I just want to do my thing, then stop worrying about that.
Yeah, you can get up
You
and
have
down
to
from
decide
here,
what
I
you
think.
want to
Give
get
it
out
your
of
best.
it, and then design for that.
Well, you got an ugly lot.
And there's definitely, like, a lot of people who have fallen into that trap. And I think everybody has at some point. It's hard to be, like, an established, like, good designer and then and then like finally have that kind of realization of just like you have that one bad contest result where you're just like, man, maybe I'm not as good at this as I think I am anymore. Like, that's tough. I get that. Like, you know, I've had my fair share of those kind of things. You have to kind of work through that. Alright, I think the White Fang is interesting. I think this one's notable because it becomes an official course in TGC2. But also, like, I can cover that then. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of courses in this list, I think, that are, you know, like, noteworthy. Just like, oh, it's, you know, it's interesting to see, or, like, designers that come up later. Again, I'll probably poke around this more in TGC2 because, you know, it's an official course there. But I'll do like a couple holes on this just to, you know, poke around. I think it's probably one of the better randomly selected courses for the
Hello
TGC2
there, and welcome to the golf
officials.
club. My name is John. We got some decent weather today.
I haven't really
Fresh
covered the
air is
officials in
abound.
this one much, partially because, like, some of the early ones are just basically auto-genned. The quality of them is real rough in spots. Some are better than others. And then also HB Keith just kind of made,
Sweet.
I think, all of the
Okay,
other official
you're
courses.
about 140 yards out here.
Eventually they pulled him in, and he was sort of the guy who, you know, as well as being the community manager, did all of the official designs. So every time he'd build a course, they'd add it to the official list, stuff like that. So, you know, not to throw shade at him.
Nice,
like,
I can,
obviously
I
his
can see it
courses
from
were
here.
solid
Okay,
for the
let's
time.
see what you can do with his 8-footer.
It's just more of the, I think the official courses
Yes.
become more interesting later when it starts being community courses, and there starts kind of being or, you know, both you start adding real courses and you start adding community courses, and there's a little bit of a, you know, a storyline into like,
Looking
well,
good.
how did they do all of these? There's, you know, there's always a little bit of drama, especially in like 2019, I think, when they essentially just,
All right, on the green.
you know,
Let's get potting.
stole
And
some of
for
the
bird.
some of the courses against the designer's consent, you know, which
Nice.
like they wouldn't have done if they had just used them and didn't ask. But they went out and
two
asked,
unders, your adjusted
and then were
score
told
after that
no,
hole.
and then used them anyways. So it's just like, all right, well that's shady and kind of awful. You know, but it's like they seem
This is
to
a
have
beauty.
learned. Now they're, you know, now they're bringing in people to touch up their own courses and paying them, which is a you know, like, HB is within their rights to use the community's work in their games, but it is kind of just
Looks like
shitty to
you're
do
gonna
it
hit
without
some sand
crediting
here.
any of the people who do it. And I think the way they do it now is just significantly better than how they did it before. You know, credit where credit is due. They're
Well,
doing
not bad
things
out
in
of
a
that,
much
bunker.
more
He's in the
constructive
fairway
and
now.
ethical way than they did before. You know, and it's like,
Let's see if we can save par on this putt here.
I will be curious to see, because I think the designers who did stuff for 25 are finally going to actually end up in the game credits where they should be. I know, like, I think I'm at the point where I've had,
11-footer here.
maybe it's just
This is
2
definitely
games.
makeable.
I can't remember if I had anything in 2019 of mine. I don't
Slightly to moderately
think so,
disappointing there.
but I might have. But anyway, so
Nice
it's like,
putt.
if
You're in
you
the
were
hole.
if they grabbed any of your courses for TGC2 or 2019 or
Sitting right
2021,
where you should be, even
you did not
par.
get credit
That's your
for it.
adjusted score.
And then even the stuff for 2023, like, they straight up paid some of us to build courses. We built some of them from scratch for that game. You know, we were paid employees of HB or 2K. I don't know how that really works. We're not a member of the development team, but we were paid to do stuff and make stuff for the game, and we didn't get credited there either. Which, like, not the end of the world, but it is just kind of one of those things. Just like, it's nice to get credit for your work and to
This
be
one's looking
recognized
good.
for your contributions. And, you know, it's kind of a bummer that never happened.
For the birdie here.
Like, I know that I did the thing in the game, but
Oh, that was
again, it's just nice to, like, you know, as an artist, you always want, like, it always hurts when you just, like, your work is just sort of taken from you and you don't get credit for it. Anyway, but like, solid little course there. That one's gonna end up in the next game. Okay. Ooh, let's do. I believe here we have. Hope you're having a good weekend. I am. Hope you're having a good one too. We have our first. I think this is RJ Will's first course. This one's gonna be worth poking around. I said I might not do any like full 18-hole highlights or showcases.
Hello
I
there,
may have
and
to do
welcome
one
to the
for
golf
this,
club.
just because
Just
it's
gonna
fun.
go ahead and start us off with a par 5
We
here,
all
I
love
guess.
some RJ Wills, and it's fun to go poke around their first course. Ooh, bad,
no good.
Bad shot. I think I'm screwed here. It's always interesting to see people's old courses like this, because
It's not too bad. Near the fairway. That's good stuff.
You can already
Okay,
kind of
about,
see like the
215
same,
from the pin here.
like, both just how far he's come as a designer and how different his stuff is, but you can also kind of see some of the same like sensibilities as a designer, and you can sort of recognize some stuff in it as well.
Five-footer here, nothing too bad. Well done. We're in the hole. And after
Okay,
the
we'll
first
see. I know
hole
we'll,
of this campaign, even par.
Still not entirely sure what all I'm gonna play from TGC 2.
It's quite the
I think
smash there.
that section's gonna be a little shorter, and I'll definitely start going through the official courses because it is interesting to see what made the cut. It does seem to be kind of random.
Here's a pro tip: you might want to aim a little more to the left than you normally would.
But
Here,
also,
that
I
ball's
think
sitting
it
above your
comes down
feet,
to
it's gonna tend to
things
make the
like,
hole.
at the time, somebody from...
Doesn't look like it's on the fairway, but that's all right.
I don't remember who, but somebody from HB just posted something to HB's forums of just like, hey, what are your favorite
Sweet.
courses to play
This
in
one's for birdie.
TGC 1? And people gave like a list of stuff. And they basically used that random thread as the basis of what they pulled for TGC 2. So, you're going to
3
go do
feet to
some
the hole
course
here.
design, got a few projects lined up for the launch. See you later. Okay, well, thank you for stopping in. Thanks for chatting. Have fun. But yeah, we'll cover it when we get there. There's
And after that hole,
one,
your
maybe
adjusted
two
score is
Rockman
even
Dan official
par.
courses, which I will always find funny. I mean, to be fair, his work was more like a little bit more reasonable then than it is now.
Nice.
He's very
Should
much
be in
one
the
of those
fairway.
guys that he figured out what he was doing in TGC 1, and 6 games later he's doing the exact
well, you
same
ended up in
things
the
he was
rough.
doing in TGC 1.
Sorry to get your hopes up there.
But just so it's always funny of just like, oh, there are some official courses made by Rockman Dan. And part of the reason is because in the thread of, hey, what are your favorite courses to play in this game? He just posted all of his own work. So,
All right, we got a 22
essentially,
footer. Let's see
in
if we
order
can
to
do
get an
this.
official course in TGC 2, all you had to do was just self-promote in HB's forums, and you could make it. I think that is very funny.
Great putt in there for the par.
I don't mean it as to throw shade or
All right,
anything,
sitting
but
right
I
where
just
you
think it's
should
very
be.
funny
Even
of like,
par is your
that was the
adjusted
process
score
that
after
could
that
get
one.
you featured in game at the time. Yeah, the framing on this is still really good.
Heading for the green here.
Thankfully, the process has improved a little bit. There's a little more screening
26 footer
happening.
from here to the cup.
And that just comes from growing as like a studio and a franchise and all of those things. This whole franchise really did just
4
start
feet,
out
let's do
as
this.
like a couple dorks making a game for
really wanted you to have that
played
one.
by a handful of other dorks.
All right, let's see what the scorecard says.
It's fantastic for what it is, but the scale of this
One
is
over
very
after
small. It was a
adjustments
tiny little
on that hole.
community.
This one's looking good.
And I think that's another thing that will hopefully show in the, as you run through the games. The first batch of
All
this is
right,
really only going to
145
cover
yards out.
1 through 3. So TGC 1, 2, and 2019, because those are the games that are going offline, as far as I know, in the next month. Uh, but eventually, I'm going to get to 2K21, and there's so much stuff that happened in that game. The just how that blew up is nuts. Uh, like the first three really do feel like a quaint little indie game, and 2019, uh,
Putting
you,
from
you
around
get the
16
PGA
feet
Tour
out.
license, you start incorporating some real courses and things like that. But it still just feels like TGC, but with like a little bit of like branding attached to it. 2K21 is when it
Solid putt.
starts
We're in the hole.
shifting into, okay, this is like a EA Sports, like,
All right, your
golf
adjusted
franchise
score
sort of
is
game
2
now.
over par after that one.
The core game that it's been is always the same, and I feel like there's still so much
All right,
shared
looking good so far.
DNA in 2K23 and 2K25. It's still essentially this game, but it's been, there's so many layers built on and so much extra polish attached to it that it's, I don't know, it's simultaneously it is still exactly the same game and also a completely
This
different
one's
game.
looking dialed in.
And it's I don't know, it's depending
Okay,
on
let's see
how,
what you
like,
can do with this
essentially your
8-footer.
mood and how you look at it. You can view it as like, this is the exact same game, but with, just like more bells and whistles and more branding attached to
All right,
it.
your adjusted
Or you could just be like,
score
hey,
is
almost
1 over
nothing is
par
the
after that one.
same as it was then. Like, every single mechanic has changed. The only thing that's the same is they're built on Unity, and it's a golf game. And there's just little things that, again, little things like, hey, we still essentially have the same 9 clubhouses that were available in this game in the current game. Like, or if you really wanted to, you could continually port courses from TGC1 into 2025. Have courses that are 10 years old that you can still play. I don't know if I'm going to port any of my TGC1 courses. Um, maybe I'll port one just for fun, for the pure novelty of, like, look, it is a TGC1 course in 2025. Man, I cannot hit short game shots around here. The flag reacts funny. Hey Scotty, how's it going? So I don't know. I think you just hopped in. I'm doing a very bad job of paying attention to what I'm doing and talking and keeping an eye
Okay,
on
we're
chat.
about 17 feet out here.
Or no, you're just waving bye to course designer. I'm done.
Good putt. Well done. All right, 4 over is the adjusted
But also,
score.
like, I
after that
know,
hole.
and it is funny where I feel like, again, this holds up really well for a TGC1 course. There's some great looks, some great views, and some interesting architecture. But also, it's like in some ways it holds up. Like, I think this is a fantastic course for this game, even by today's standards. But it's also not something you could port and have it function. Like, it's
Okay, for the birdie.
the ideas in it hold up great, but it's just like
Perfect.
the bones of it just don't work for the modern game either. You're getting wrecked
after
by
that
this
one, your
PSN
adjusted
outage.
score
You
is
appreciate
3
catching some of your
over.
thoughts, though? Just going to be lurking. Yeah, and by all means, like,
9th hole coming up.
I'm happy to have all you guys. I'm happy for folks who want to, like, actively engage and chit chat. But as a chronic sort of lurker of other people's streams,
Great
I'm happy to
contact.
just
Nice
have
swing.
people lurking in the background too. I listen to all sorts of streams as just background noise, and so, like, by all means, feel
All right,
welcome
looking at,
to do
120
the
yards
same
or so
thing
to
with
the
my
pin.
streams. If I can just provide you with some sort of comforting, relaxing background noise, then I'm completely happy to have provided that. Ooh, that's a
That
shot.
approach shot was transcendent for the bird. All right, let's see how this adds up. All right, your adjusted score
So
is
yeah, I
2
think
over par after
it will
that one.
certainly be interesting to, or there's gonna be a trend, I think, of the further we go in, the more relevant all of these things are still going to be. Um, I mean, and part of that is because obviously you get closer to the modern day of like, well, every 2K23 course is still relevant because they're current. Um, but
Okay, we're sitting at around 110 yards.
and
to
these
pin.
courses are 10 years old, so of course they're not current. But say things that, you know, having played through all of like maybe the most popular and or some of the most relevant, like I'm sure I've missed a couple in there, but I'm gonna get the bulk of them in this
Nice.
preview.
29 feet
Out of
from
all
the
of
hole.
them, there's maybe one that you could reasonably port to the current game and have it still work. That feels still relevant, and that's probably just
Oh, that was
True
going to be
Arrow.
fantastic.
There's some that
Super
you could
putt, just
certainly
didn't
like
drop.
renovate and
Next
make
hole
them
coming
work,
up.
but it's just not
Alright,
worth
your
doing that
adjusted
because
score is 2
like,
over par after
the
that
scale of everything is so off. You know, like it would require a lot of massaging, and then also just due to the construction of it being so different,
one. Beauty.
uh, like it's in order to renovate something to make it relevant, you would just have to basically rebuild it from scratch, and it's just like it's not really worth doing that. So almost nobody's going to port stuff from this era to the current game, and there's very few stuff that like would work without like major changes. And I feel like so there's maybe one course in the whole game that would still work, in my opinion, that I've seen.
And we have a 27-footer from here to the cup.
And then you get into TGC2, and there starts to be a handful. Like I know I still have courses in my catalog that I have ported into the current game that date back to
All right,
TGC2.
let's get out of here.
Now, that is with some renovations and touch-ups and stuff, so
And
they're
after
not
that one, your
exactly
adjusted
the
score
same.
is 3 over.
But the bones start getting to the point where it's like, yeah, this is close enough. You know, like it's worth porting this. I think I have 2 or 3, and most of that's just for
Looking good.
nostalgia, but they still work at least. And you get into like 2019, and you start getting another handful.
Yeah.
And then
I
you
stand
get to
corrected.
like
It's the
2021,
deep stuff
and I
for
think you
you.
start. That's at the point where it's like, okay, almost every single one of the big courses, like the top community courses from that game, are still in this current game and are still relevant, and will
All right,
almost
back
certainly
on the
be
fairway.
ported to
I like
2K25
this stuff.
and will still be relevant. And it's just
All right, about a 3-footer here. Great putt in there for par. And after that one, your adjusted score is 3 over.
So again, I think it's like just as the quality of the work improves, and when the bones of them make so much more sense, like they
Something
just
sounded
hold up
off
in
there.
terms of like the architecture is great and not just built around the game. So I think like those just have way more legs than some of these old ones that are just a little video gamey. And so I imagine you're just like
Not
they
bad,
have
not
more
bad. You're in the
legs
fairway
where
now.
as long
Okay,
as
we have about 130
as long as the
yards,
game
I'd
kind of
say,
continues
to
to
get the pin.
feel like golf, and or like it continues to be built in Unity in a way where you can port, I think you have your kind of like 2019, 2021, 2023 courses that essentially
Okay,
are
this
just
one to save par.
evergreen. Like they can survive the entire
Perfect.
the life of the franchise sort of thing.
And after that one, your adjusted score is 3 over.
And that being said, like obviously, you're always going to need to touch stuff up. Courses have never really ported seamlessly from game to game. They've always required a little bit of like touch up in terms of say like making the green slopes work because the physics of the game always change a little bit from game to
Don't
game.
think that was
or just,
solid.
hey, all of the same stuff exists, but like, oh, this thing that you did in this game doesn't work
Pretty
in the
deep
next game,
stuff
and you
here.
have to redo it, or
Give it a good hack.
like
Let's put it in
there's
the right
there's
direction.
like one game, I think it was TGC 1 to 2, where they rescaled some of the objects. So,
Nice.
if you use some of
for
the
the
objects
bird.
they rescaled, you would have to completely redo all of the planting that you did, or things like that.
Oh man. All
So I
right.
think I
Nice
had to
little
do
two-foot
that
putt.
for, or maybe
And
that was
let's check the
TGC 2 to
scorecard here.
2019. I'm not sure. And I
And
think it was
after
like
that one, your adjusted
2019
score
was the
is
one where
3
there's
over.
like a little bunker like edge trick that you could do to create like some cool waste areas that a lot of people did, and then that trick just didn't work moving forward because they got rid of like bunker lips entirely. So it like lots of little things like that of just like, oh, I used this trick that was available in this game and it was sort of fixed in future iterations, and then it was just like, all right, well, that doesn't work anymore.
Well,
So
I've
you
seen
always had to do
worse,
some
I
touch
can
ups,
tell you that.
but it's one of those where it's like, at least now it's sort of worth doing. Like if the bones are good, then it's worth doing those touch ups. If
Next
the
hole
course
coming up.
like just fundamentally doesn't work in the new game anyways, then there's not really any. You're not going to bother.
And after that
with
one, your adjusted score is 3
And
over.
just the kind of rise of, I think, like, I suppose people have always kind of gone back and renovated old courses, but there's going to be more of that now. I think as like there's a lot of established designers who have like a solid back catalog
Okay,
of
you're
stuff
kind of
that
in
still holds
some
up
deep stuff.
and is
This
worth
is the
like
danger zone.
revising and revisiting. That being said, like I know, I think it was like 2021 or 2019. There's like 3 or 4 big name designers that like passed courses
That's
around
unfortunate.
and had
Okay,
each
we are
other
very
like
deep in the
renovate
rough
their own
here.
courses
Be careful
and
with
stuff.
this one.
I think,
Nice.
again, we'll find out when we get there. Maybe it was 2021. I know Dario had a course that ended up being an official course, and I think it was one that he had renovated
Yeah,
from
20
another
feet
designer.
to
Like
the
it was
cup.
one of Job Fickett's courses, maybe, and he completely redid it, sort of in his own style, and then it ended up being an official course. So there's just all those like weird little kind of stories like that that are fun. Of like, oh hey, this
Oh, you're close here. Let's drop it and move on to the next hole.
not only
All
are
right, see what the scorecard says.
not only are some
And
of
after
these
that hole,
courses
5
worth
over is your
renovating,
adjusted score.
but it's like something that's worth ends up being something that's worth kind of preserving or like elevating to an official course. And this has been a fun little round. I've enjoyed this. I know I said I was gonna, or I've tried to kind of limit these to about an hour, but I feel like I'm close enough to finishing sort of all of the my list of stuff I want to highlight.
Okay, but an 18.
I might as well
footer
just
here.
kind of power through and finish my sort of tour that I'm working on. If you guys want, I don't really want to feature any of my courses at this
Okay,
point.
let's see what you can do with this 7-footer.
I don't know. I don't think my stuff from this time period is really relevant. Not in the grand scheme of things. And also that's maybe just like a little bit of like, it's a little too much
All right, 8 over
self-promotion
is
for
the
me.
adjusted score after that hole.
I mean, it'll become, I don't know. Well, and also it's one of those, on top of me just not wanting to just endlessly self-promote my own stuff and just kind of toot my own horn. Like, the point of this is to sort
All right,
of
we're
like,
about,
again, go through like a little tour
210 yards
just
out,
for
I'd say,
fun
from
and
here.
to see kind of where we, how far we've come and, revisit some interesting points from the past. But also just to highlight things that are going to be lost. Like, this is all going to become lost media in, a couple weeks. And,
Good stuff.
like, I don't need to highlight my own stuff in that way because, well, I have all of the files. I pulled them all down. So it's not lost. I'll have all of it still. It really
let's see
excited
what
me
you
to see
can do with
Vets
his
excited about
8-footer.
what's coming up. Oh, for sure. Like, I think overall the new game is promising.
Oh, man.
But, like, I have my doubts
let's
on some
sink
of
this
the,
and head
like,
to the
career mode
clubhouse, eh?
choices or,
Nice little
like,
tap to finish with the
some
par.
potential mechanics that
And
might
at the
be
end of the
kind
day,
of
your
pay to
adjusted
win
score
that might
is
have
8
to be
over.
hopefully backed
8
off.
over par to end things off today.
You know, like I'm overall cautiously excited for the whole of 2K25. I think it, you know, if they avoid a handful of potential pitfalls, I think it will easily be the best game in the franchise in terms of how it plays and how it is, is kind of received by its audience. I don't remember this course, but like, you know, so like for the whole game, I'm cautiously optimistic. For the designer, I am 100% just incredibly excited. Like there's, you know, no caveats attached to the design portion of it. I am so thrilled to be able to play with it, and like I have seen
Hello there,
absolutely
and welcome to
nothing
this
out of
par
any of the
four
like, you
first
know,
hole.
designer sneak peeks
Have a
or
bit of
just
fun
like,
here, huh?
you know, things, whispers I've heard that would make me worried about the designer at all.
Nice. Should be in the fairway.
Like that is going to be awesome. And so it's like, honestly, even like realistically, it's the like 2K23 is solid, at least especially where it's at now.
I don't think this has enough.
But like in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of just like a mediocre, you know, it's kind of a mediocre stop in the franchise, I think. Where like especially in terms of the designer, almost nothing new came out of the
about 17
designer.
feet out here.
I think there's like a couple of trees like added. Like there was, it wasn't that there was nothing new in the designer from 21 to 23, but there's just nothing that felt kind of game changing at all. Like there's a couple little touch ups.
All right, nice little.
And then also it was just like at the time it ran so poorly, and it was so like you'd get so many crashes, and there's just like there's all these caveats, and there wasn't just like, you know, I think like it killed a lot of people's enthusiasm coming from 21, which was such a big step forward. Then to just get to the next step in the franchise, and it was just like, oh, like there's a couple little improvements, but there's also other stuff that just outright makes it worse.
Let's get out of this roughing on the green here.
Or just like ruins people's ability to work in it, and it's just like, yeah, it just kind of like the community enthusiasm took a big nosedive, and whereas 21 was just the biggest game in the franchise. Like for like COVID reasons and things like that, and reasons outside of the quality of the game itself.
Over for the round.
You know, 23 just kind of felt like there's a lot of people who just kind of sat that one out. It's just like, yeah, this just isn't for me. You know, both in terms of just like, yeah, there's not any big steps. There's like a couple little things that were nice in terms of how the game played. You know, some not like the ranked online was a nice little addition, but like, a lot of the things that were good about, or that are good about 23 came well into the game's release cycle. At launch,
looks like this may be in the deep stuff.
Not great. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, we're in the first cut, but
and there's there's some potential for a handful of little things like that. I think.
10-footer here. This is makeable.
But really, it just comes down to, I think, if they avoid all of the potential things that could kind of be pay-to-win mechanics,
let's keep going.
or just like Clubhouse Pass stuff gives you advantages.
Over for the round.
You know, just outright advantages that can just make your player objectively better. Like that will suck. But if they avoid that, then like it's probably going to be pretty awesome.
Looks like you'll be in the short stuff here.
There's already folks who just straight up skipped 23 and just never got into it that have been, you know, who've been popping up and have been kind of back into the community. And that's been great to see. I realized I don't remember this course at all. It's a nice little course, but it's just like, yeah, this is cute. I like it. I don't think it really needs highlighted for like a large portion of time. I might poke around a Lost and Scaries a bit, and then maybe Heron's Reach. I know I've already done several of Reeves' courses, so I don't need to go too crazy in this one, but I just remember this one being a standout one as well.
Hello there, and welcome to nature. Birds are chirping.
But yeah, again, I am excited for the new game.
It's looking good.
I don't know. I always just get worried about some of the mechanics that like like the swing changes look awesome. There's so many changes in the new game that add like that
So we
really
have about
pop that like
165
sense
yards
of
to go
realism.
still.
Like not not necessarily like objective realism, but just like an engaging sense of realism. 82% of that happened. Like things like drop mechanics and like there's all this great attention to detail and stuff
Very
that makes
nice.
it feel like you could build a great sim game out of it. But then there's also just like a bunch of just kind of what I'm just gonna call shiny 2K
Let's see if we can save
casino
power on this
kind of mechanics that just always like pull me out of that and make me a little worried.
Nice pot.
Like the 8 billion kinds of currency that you need to
Power
upgrade your
after the
clubs.
first hole.
Like you need an Evo tool, and there's level up tokens, and there's consumable golf balls, and look, you apply power gems to your golf clubs, and just all of these, like, again, little, like, shiny casino mechanics that just feel like they're, almost mandated by 2K. I'm just like, well, you need shiny loot box mechanics to, we need gambling money in our game.
You're on the green. A lot of work to do, but you're on. All right, this next one's for
But
birdie.
again, to be fair, the last, 2K23 for sure had some of that stuff too. But, I don't know. But it is funny in that,
Okay, let's see what you
those
can do with this
mechanics were
8-footer.
either just so unnecessary that nobody ever engaged with them anyways, or, the consumable
short
golf
little putt
balls,
here.
just,
Okay, moving
there's
along.
enough pushback where they're just like, look, you can toggle them off for,
One
societies
over
if you
after
want.
adjustments
And then,
on that hole.
but, ultimately it was just one of those where it's like, hey, I think
good
it's
so
funny
far?
in that it really just comes down to, a lot of the potential pitfalls for just pay-to-win nonsense, that...
Okay, well, you ended up in the rough.
that
Sorry
HB
to
could
hit
have
your hopes
fallen
up there.
into. And again, I'm probably gonna blame, or I'm gonna point the finger at 2K more than I'm gonna point the finger at HB. I get the feeling that a
Didn't
lot of
sound
these
right.
sort of things are mandated.
Pretty deep rough here. Not going to sugarcoat it.
But I feel like all of those things that could have
Could be in the
really
rough here.
what's the word, ruined,
Okay, what are you going to do here? Up to you.
competitive game modes and all of these things were really just undone by the fact that there's no meaningful there's no meaningful kind of competitive play in the game anyways for it to disrupt. I don't know. Or sort of just like, hey, consumable golf balls, and just being able to straight be like, hey, I'm going to use a consumable resource to add 30 yards of distance to my player.
All right,
and
13-footer here.
it costs more money to refill it than I'm going to earn by playing online modes, meaning that it's like, hey, if you want to be
man.
competitive, then you have to pause
Well,
periodically
let's see
to
how
go
the
grind
numbers
out
add
more
up.
currency for your online playing binge, or you just
And
give
after
us
that
some
one, your
money.
adjusted
Just
score
pay for
is
some
3
VC.
over.
That feels like really manipulative and potentially just a game destroying. And all of that's undone by the fact that, there's no meaningful online play anyways. Almost nobody uses, or almost nobody was bothering to play ranked modes anyways. So it's like, oh, alright, well, you can't destroy what's not there. It's just a handful of people doing it for fun. Nobody ever got really serious about it. I don't know, I find that funny, and I think there's a,
For the birdie here.
there's always that possibility.
Oh, goodness, that was thoroughly disappointing.
So I feel like
All right, nice
even
and
if
close,
even
nice
if
little
some
putt here.
pay-to-win mechanics
Well, I'm
do
happy to
sneak
move
through
on.
into the current game, there's a good chance that they're just
And
kind
after
of
that one, your
undermined
adjusted
by the
score
fact
is
that,
3 over.
hey, in 6 months, the only people that are still playing this game are the TGC Tours folks, and we're all uninterested in those and just want to do our own little thing. So it's like, hey, as long as we can just toggle all this for TGC Tours, nobody cares. Nobody wants to interact with any of it anyways.
Unlucky. Unlucky.
Yeah, and same with kind of the but yeah, so I think, yeah, and that's the part that I'm worried about in
Ugh.
terms of just
Yeah, I
as
hate
long as
these
none of the
fairway
clubhouse
bunkers.
passes
Do what you can.
change
Hopefully you can
the
get some
the
solid
mechanics of the
contact,
game.
get some distance on this.
and like obviously I think it
Doesn't look like it's on the
sounds
fairway,
like,
but it's all right.
you know, there's like certain shot types locked behind
Out of the bunker and onto the fairway with
the clubhouse
really
passes.
some
And I
decent
think the
distance.
shots themselves come out in the free version of it.
Looks like this is a
But
beauty.
being able to upgrade that shot to make it better is locked out of the paid version.
Little 5-footer here, nothing too scary.
And like that makes me a little nervous,
Nice
but
putt, we're in
ultimately
there.
it's just like I don't think any of the
And
any
after
of the
that hole,
alternate
5
shots
over
are really
for
just
Justin's
better
score.
than the standard ones. So like I'm okay with it if it's just like you're unlocking different equivalent tools and it's just like, hey, like as long as the new shots aren't better than the, the current ones, then like, I'm not the biggest fan of locking mechanics behind a paywall, but if it's essentially just like, if they're lateral moves that are done for flavor as opposed to just outright improvements, then realistically I have no problem with that. It's more of just like, okay, well, if the new
3
shots
feet to the
become
hole here.
must-haves, and
Okay,
and
let's check the
the
old
improved version of
scorecard.
those is locked behind paid mechanics, well, then that's a problem.
And after that hole, 5 over is your adjusted score.
But ultimately, it really just comes down to, like, I don't know. We'll see. So far, 2K isn't like, or HB, they have stated
Powerful.
multiple times of just like, hey, we will never lock advantages behind paywalls, and for the most part, they've lived up to that. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt going forward, or at least I still think the consumable golf ball mechanic is stupid, and I still hate it. And I'm disappointed that it returns in the new game. But again,
Very
I imagine
deep in the rough.
something like that is mandated by 2K, of just like, hey, you need a consumable resource in your game because we need you need
Sweet.
something that will push
This is for birdie.
monetization of the game, and if they have to do that, then realistically the consumable golf balls is a pretty harmless version of that mechanic.
All right, nice little 2-foot putt. And let's see what the scorecard says.
If we're stuck with that just because of 2K doing
and after
2K
that hole,
things,
5 over is
then
your adjusted score.
like at least if we can get just some like tame versions of it that are really not particularly harmful, then that's like probably a good thing. So I'm not gonna go I'm not gonna go piss on all of the consumable golf ball
here.
stuff because it was already
Something
it was
weird in
already
that swing.
basically like an avoidable mechanic in the current game anyways, and it looks like they're even less impactful than they are now. I'll have to go check because straight up, I think outside of me tinkering with them in early access and preview stuff, I don't think I've ever actually used a single consumable golf ball in
17
2K23.
feet out here.
I've played 1,000 hours of it. Now, admittedly, a lot of that is designing, but I have 1,000 hours in the game, and I have straight up never interacted with one of the mechanics. I've just accumulated 8 billion golf balls that I've never used.
And your adjusted score after that hole is 7
I'm gonna have to tinker with them now just for giggles. Of just like, all right, how bonkers can I make one of these golf balls? Or just hey, how much can I drop my score by using one of them?
Okay, looks like we are about 225 yards to the pin. Looks like
and also,
this may be
and the other thing is like, okay, the consumable golf balls are still there, but we can already turn them off for TGC tours from the start. So it makes it even less of a worry. It's just like all I care about in the game is being able to do TGC tours and
okay, let's see if they can save par
that's the long-term life of this game for I think its core fan base anyways. It's like as long as they don't mess with that, I don't care what they do with the rest of the game. I don't care what kind of bonkers, goofy stuff you can do in matchmaking.
8 over is the adjusted score
again,
after that hole.
matchmaking is generally dead in 6 months anyways. So again, it's very much like, hey, whatever you want to do there, go for it. As like nobody's too invested in that anyways. So like, if you want to kind of just make it silly, then that's your that's your prerogative. Go for it.
This looks like I'd say around 110 yards or so to the pin.
Oh, why did I try to take some off and reloft? But actually, that's gonna work perfectly. Go in. Oh, bounce over the edge.
Okay, nice approach. This one's for birdie. Ouch. All right, let's take a peek at the scorecard.
And again, it's one of those where, like, I can see lots of
All right,
ways in
8
which
over
they
is the
could make
adjusted score
make
after that
mistakes
hole.
and kind of end up in the same spot they're in now, or But it's also just like, I don't know.
That was amazing.
There's also plenty of ways things could go right, and they breathe more life into a lot of the, like, they hold on to a casual audience more, and people hang around longer and play more of the game, and the core user base goes up a little bit, where, you could have thousands of people playing society, or like official societies every week, and that would be great, versus kind of the whole, like, hey, people just, or like, 'cause I remember Jives, he did like there's a handful of people that would do the like online matchmaking kind of stuff.
Okay, for the
but,
birdie.
like it really just came down to like Jeff, or like Jives, or like there's a handful
Okay,
of
let's get
people that
over
would
with
just grind
All right,
out
let's see how these numbers add up.
the matchmaking leaderboards for fun, and
All right, 8 over is the adjusted score.
like I think it was one of those where like you could kind of hit all of the max ranks that you wanted without like what do you want to call it?
Heading
Like,
towards the beach here.
it was all
Not a good
balanced in a
time.
way that, like, as long you could always
I'll
work
tell
your
you what,
way up
everybody
as
ends
long
up
as you
here
were just like
sometimes.
it was more of just a
Take
grindy
this, as a
thing
learning
as opposed to
opportunity.
purely like a skill based thing, which is honestly probably better. Like,
Well, you're out of the sand. That's all.
if you
that's
can
what
hit
I can
max
ask
rank
for.
by just like being persistent and just keeping at it, as opposed to needing to be one of the 10 best players in the world to do it, then like I think that's probably better.
Okay, let's see what you can do with this 7-footer.
Because it should
Decent
just
putt
be
there for
casual
bogey.
fun, and the fact that like if you don't have to get really really sweaty in order
All right,
to just
9 over is the
you know
adjusted score.
achieve
after that
everything
hole.
that there is to do in all of the seasons, I think that's a better way of doing it, and hopefully it kind of stays that way. Also, that removes
Nice,
the
should be
incentive
in the
of having to
fairway.
engage with pay to win mechanics if you don't want to, and like I don't really think most people kind of want that to be
Yeah,
a
I
thing.
stand corrected. It's the deep stuff for you.
And also, like, most of the people who did, get the handful of TGC Tours guys who would just go and grind out matchmaking seasons for fun, like, are probably better, like, they're better than most of the randos that they're going to run into on the leaderboards anyways. So, again, it didn't matter if some of them had an advantage because they're just significantly worse players and would lose anyways. Hey, Pac-Man, how's it going?
Okay, let's see what you can do with this 7-footer. Oh, so
Oh,
close.
no. I think I've rambled literally about like pay to win mechanics and stuff for the
Okay,
this
let's see what the
entire
scorecard
round.
says.
Matt still seems to have
Sitting
some separation
at
anxiety.
12 over.
Separation anxiety from
All
what
right,
specifically?
let's let her rip.
Like from this game, you mean? TGC one.
It's looking good.
Separation anxiety is maybe the wrong word. Well, also like, it's maybe a little nostalgia, I guess.
All right, you're looking at around 175 yards.
Also,
shot
separation anxiety is the wrong word because we're not separated from this game yet. Separation anxiety comes in a month
Could
where
be in the rough here.
we lose access to all the old stuff. It's just gone then.
Here. Great bounce. I thought for sure it was heading for trouble.
I shouldn't have. I need to stop trying to hit partials. They just don't work in this game. Not very well. Parting is such sweet sorrow. Exactly. Let's go chip. Let's go up a couple clubs and just see how that works. But anyway, the whole point. I'm gonna wrap up all the just insane rambling about online matchmaking and pay to win mechanics and all that funny stuff, just to say like, hey, you know, HB and
Little
2K would
6-footer
have
here,
to do
nothing too
some
scary.
real shady stuff in order to screw up like
Oh, so close.
what they have. Like I think whatever
See how this
mechanics
all
the new
adds up.
game have, like I think I'm cautiously optimistic.
Sitting
So much
at
stuff about it
15
looks
over
great,
for the
and the
round.
handful of things I'm kind of nervous about, like, would have to be really bad for it to kind of mess up the game. So I think it's
This one's a beauty.
it's something to keep an eye on, but I don't think there's going to be any like show-stopping issues. And
Okay,
I
you're on
think
the
it
dance
should be
floor.
pretty good.
Good stuff.
And
for
I'm
the
excited
bird.
for it. I'm really excited for the designer though, and it will be a real hard.
Oh, that was moderately disappointing.
It's one of those of just like I really
All
want
right,
to
let's
tinker with
drop
the new
this
game
one.
and see how it
Well,
works.
let's get
But
outta
I don't
here.
know if I'm invested enough in
And
the
that'll keep
game
you at
for it to
15 over for
override
the
my
round.
desire to just immediately hop into the designer for a month. I straight up just might not play the new game until like March or something because I'm just so distracted by
This
designing.
is a beauty. And we're right around 225 yards out here. Doesn't look like it's on the fairway, but it's all right.
I wonder if this is going to make good YouTube content at all. It's probably going to be pretty poor
Nicely done.
content.
Solid approach. All right, 12-footer
being
here.
honest. It's me kind of randomly playing a handful of golf from 10 years ago and rambling incoherently.
Let's see
we're
how
at
that
an
all
hour
adds
10.
up.
This is probably going to be 2 hours.
Okay, so that'll keep you at
It will just
15
be
over
like
for the round.
lots of random stuff. And this has been a fun little course. I've enjoyed it, but it's also interesting of just like I think this is one of those
Looks
big
like you'll be in the
standout
short stuff
kind of
here.
renowned courses from the time. I think this won a contest. And just kind of how like uninteresting is the wrong
I'd say
word. Like
looks
it's got
like
some
around
cool environment
145
stuff.
yards from the
Like
pin.
again, it's very well made, but it's just like it feels
that was a
I guess
swing.
dated is the right word. Where it's just like, oh, it doesn't wow me from a perspective of 10 years later and having seen like so much more impressive stuff since then. It's like, yeah, this is solid for the time.
Okay, here we go. This one to save par.
Or also part of it is just like I think I've seen stuff that has impressed me from this game, and it's just I think
All right, a little 6-foot putt here.
what really stands out to me now and what like popped in the community at the time are sort of different. So I think it is interesting.
Okay, time to get out the scorecard. 17 over for the round. Keep an eye on that wind. Could come into play on this hole. All right, looking good so far.
And it is funny because like on some level, like I will certainly be a little sad that all of this stuff is going to be lost. Like
Okay,
there is
well, you
a
ended up in the
certain
rough. Sorry to
level
get your hopes
of
up there.
again, there's I have a I have an attachment to a fondness for all of the stuff from this era. Like, I mean, I don't really go back and play this regularly at all. I think up until this week, I hadn't opened this game in I don't know. I think I honestly probably opened it like once a year or so just for giggles. So it wasn't that long ago.
This one's looking good.
Um,
Nice. 4 feet. Let's do
that's
this.
it. But even like TGC 1 is probably the one I would actually go back to just because it's so old and so different. But it's just like I don't think I'd opened TGC 2 really since that game stopped being relevant.
16 over par.
I don't think I had really played 2019
Okay, at the end
since
of the
that
day,
game stopped
16
being
over
relevant.
par.
Like, I haven't really revisited any of these since since the newer version came out because they were just objectively better and they were current. So I did Olaf's and Scaries. I'm on page 2. Is there anything? I think Carmel Creek will play in the next game because that becomes an official. It's I think I poked around that at one point. Heron's Reach, maybe I'll do a couple of that, because I remember that being a really solid links course for the time. And again, that is a, what do you want to call it? You know, and that was a influence for one of, I think, my first links course, the Royal Alden one. Just maybe the only decent course I built in TGC 1. I think the first course I made that, what do you want to call it? That was the first one I made that was featured on tour, I think.
Hello there, and
It'd be
welcome
nice if
to this
HB would
first
allow the
hole,
downloading
par
of the
four.
courses before they
Have a
just
good time out
disconnected
there.
it cold. Well, to a certain extent, I don't know, like, that is an interesting idea. And I think, like, it comes down to, like, not a lot of this is, like, really worth preserving. Or it's like, they're not really worth keeping current. They're worth preserving as,
Okay,
like,
we're sitting at around
a historical
110
artifact.
yards to the
Or
pin.
as, like, a nostalgia thing, as opposed to anything else. And then also, like, hey, you can preserve all of your own stuff. You can pull your own stuff down. Like, I pulled all
Sweet.
my stuff down. I don't think any of it will ever really see the light of day. Like, I probably won't republish, like, different
Nice.
versions of any of my
Save
stuff.
par.
You know, like,
Nice putt,
I'm
we're in the
not going
hole.
to
Good stuff.
republish anything from, like, TGC 1 most likely. But it's just nice to have, just, you know,
Starting
again,
things
for your
off at
own.
even par.
Like, it's nice to be able to, like, revisit your first course and see how far you've come as a designer and things like that.
Looking good so far.
And realistically, like, I think, and there's also that little, like, bit of ethics,
And
I
this
guess,
one, looks
or
like
the
around
ethical question of,
240
like, is it
yards out.
okay to let people, like, pull down other people's work and start editing it? You know, because, like, pulling down course files is the only way that you'd be able to access any of it. You know, and so you'd be able to tinker with it in the designer and stuff like that. And, you know, like, the reason that all of these courses are going to be lost are because most of the people who made them are just not in the community anymore. And so, like, they can't kind of consent to their work being modified. And it's like, okay, is it better to just let it be lost? Or better to people pull it in and start tinkering with it without their permission? I don't really know the answer to that question. And I don't know, I had also thought that, like, as I went through this, I'd probably assemble a list of stuff that I thought was, like,
9-footer here.
interesting and worth preserving, and then just maybe see if, you know, like, if I ended up with, like, hey, here's 15 courses
putt
from
here.
all of the old games that are going to be lost that we should hold on to. Hey, Panda, can
Got a
you
nice
pull those
even
down
par
so
on your
that, like, the
scorecard
community
after that
still has
one,
access
and
to them?
after the handicap adjustment.
And, like, going through this, it's kind of one of those, I thought I would have several, and, like, there's a couple, like, honestly, this one
Nice,
is
should be in the
pretty
fairway.
darn solid. It's, you know, again, it's dated. It wouldn't hold up to. I thought that once you submitted a course, it became the rights of HB.
All right,
I mean,
we
yes, it
are
does.
around
They
190
100% can
yards
do
out.
whatever they want with your courses. But it's more of just like I don't know. The question is not if they have the rights to do that. It's just that if it's you know, like, if it's wrong for them to do that or not.
Nice. You're on. All right, 14 feet to the hole. Oh, unlucky.
And I'm just saying, I think some of these things are, like, not, like, objectively wrong, but
Moving right
there's
along
there's
here.
a moral gray area to some of the, like, you know, potential preservation
Even
of
par
some of
after
this
that
stuff.
hole. That's your adjusted score.
Like, there's a couple courses I would want to download just for fun, you know, like, just, like, especially, you know, just for my own kind of, like, for humor. Like, I definitely would want to pull some Jerry
this one has
Shields
some
courses
teeth.
down, because he's not around anymore. Preserving, like, Rattlesnake Gulch would be funny for me. But
not right all
again,
the time, but,
like, I'm not gonna
definitely was
publish
this
that. Like, taking some, or like any of these courses, like if I say like this one, I'm like, oh, this is nice. This would be worth preserving. Or like Fossmill was another one of just like, hey, Mike's not around anymore. He's not gonna port anything. Like, that might be worth preserving. You know, could I get that file? But it's also just like I wouldn't feel comfortable publishing any
All right,
of
nice
those
little 2-foot putt.
because like
All right, let's take a
you
look at
know,
the old
there's not
scorecard
really
here.
any way to share that in a way that like feels ethical to me.
All right, your adjusted score is 1 over par after that one.
And same thing with like the Jerry Shields thing. It's like, oh, I would find that amusing and like interesting, but I couldn't publish that. I couldn't like share it with anybody. That would be weird.
Okay, this one's looking to be around 240 yards out.
And again, it's one of those of honestly, I'm digging this course a lot. It is very of its time, but it's very high quality for its time, and I'm having fun playing it. It is interesting to play. Oh, please don't go on the other side of the double green. Oh, it's gone. Oh, oh no. Oh, am I gonna hole out on the other golf hole? Man, that thing just will not stop. I don't know. I don't think I was close enough to 100% power. This is rough. I'm almost debating now if I want to play all 18 on this.
Okay, 20 feet to the cup.
Nice little 4-putt there.
Next
But yeah,
hole
but anyway,
coming
like
up.
the whole course list thing. I figured for sure that I would have like
All
a
right,
handful
your
of lists of
adjusted
stuff of like,
score
hey, we should
is
really
2 over
preserve
par
this.
after that one.
And so far, I kind of look at all this and go like, like there's stuff that's nice to preserve, but
It's looking good.
Like to a certain extent, I don't think there's not anything like really critical being lost by just letting these things kind of fade away into the ether.
And it looks like we have 100 yards to the pin.
Especially since like I guess if you pull the files and publish, then like people can access them via
Nice.
playing them in
For the birdie
in current
here.
games and stuff. But
Nice.
but again, there's not necessarily a whole lot of a reason to do that.
All right, 1 over.
And preserving
after
them as they
adjustments on that
existed in
hole.
say like TGC 1 or whatever, that's not really as important because like nobody can buy this game anymore anyways. It's delisted. Well, and also, and HB never really set it up in a way where you could go purchase. Oh, that was interesting. Purchase any of the old games at a discount, anyways. Like they're not, they're not really looking backwards, and honestly, nor should they. Like there's not really much of a reason to outside
Heading
of just
for
like
the
us
green
dorks
here.
that are just nostalgic about like, hey, where did all of the roots of the community come from?
For the bird.
It'd be fun if they, like continued to offer some of the really old games in the franchise at a discount. Like, hey, you want to play TGC
Alrighty,
1?
moving
You want to
on.
toss us like $4? Have at it.
All right, your adjusted score is 1 over par after that one.
Like, but also I get why they don't do that. That's a lot of work to like, hey, we made $400 letting people
Looking good.
go back and play old versions of the game.
Looking at a 19-foot putt from here.
And ultimately, I think it's one of those where maybe just
That'll work
preserving
fine.
them in video form of just like, hey, this is what this course looked like, is
Right,
good enough
1 over
for all
after
of these.
adjustments on that hole.
Like I think, what do you want to call it? Like again, like none of these are really worth like going back and
I'd say
playing
it's
in a
about
modern
120
context.
yards or
Like,
so to the pin from
like
here.
this is one of the more impressive courses that I've played in this game. Like just in terms of like the golf is interesting, um, uh, like the technical work is really high for TGC1. But it's just
Nice.
like if you ported it into
This for
23 or
birdie.
25, like you could build something
Just
better than this in like 20 minutes kind of thing. Especially if just like all the
All right, let's see
all the
what the
potential
scorecard
for making
says.
just like really good
All
for
right,
making
your
like really
adjusted
good
score is
fescue and
1
stuff.
over par
Like I
after
think
that one.
straight up you could build a better links course than this in a day. It would look better, it would play better, it would, you know. So
Nice. Should be in the
like
fairway.
if it doesn't hold out up outside of the context of it being a TGC1 course, is it really worth porting into a new game?
All
Or
right,
does it just need to
145
like, you
yards
know,
out.
or is just something like this all you really need out of it? Which is like, hey, look, this existed. Like, you know, this is where we started. This is, you know, here's what some old people, or, you know, old's the wrong word because everyone's only 10 years older than they were when they made this. But, you know, here's some older work
All right,
that,
you're on the green
you know,
now.
that
Good
existed,
stuff.
and here's
Okay,
where
let's see
this
what
is
you
what
can
people
do
were
with this
doing
7-footer.
before we figured stuff out, or before
That was
we had
nice.
tools to do this, or it's fun to see the creativity of what people were doing.
Sitting
but-
right where you should be, even par. That's your
but
adjusted
you know,
score.
none of it really like none of it stands out in a modern context. I think because we can just do so much more now.
This one's looking good.
Come back around, nice. All right. So I keep getting like stick drift or some kind of input drift on this game. I don't know why, because I don't really get that in any other game. It's just this one for some reason. I don't think it's my controller, because then that would happen in like the other games that I play. But something about this
Okay,
one
so you're in the rough
is,
here.
is just like making my cursor is like I don't know. And maybe there is some kind of stick drift in my cursor. It's just like filtered out in
Very
you know,
nice.
in
Okay,
newer
for the
games.
birdie.
I just don't notice.
Yes.
Hey, back to under par. Honestly,
All
for
right,
a
one
course
under
that I
is your
like
adjusted score
only
after that one.
vaguely remember, like this really stands out to me. I'm really enjoying this one.
This one's looking dialed in. Yeah, I stand corrected. It's the deep stuff for you.
Going. Ew, nice.
And a fantastic chip from the rough. Well
But yeah,
done.
I think like I'm
All right, 2 under
and
is
who
your
knows?
adjusted
I have a
score
whole
after that
month to
hole.
kind of figure out what, if anything, is worth doing on this front. But I don't know. Like I'm thinking of leaning towards like, hey,
This
it's
is a
just better
beauty.
to just kind of let all this stuff die. And I think even like the handful of guys who are still around
All right,
and
looking at
can pull their
120
stuff
yards or
down
so to
and
the
do
pin.
something with it are very much just in like the mindset of just like, I don't really want to. Just like it can all go away. It's fine. So maybe, you know, that's probably the best course of action. And I'm just gonna go, you know, have a fun little highlight of it, before, you know, and just call it a day. I really like that fence in the background. I remember being just blown away by that. It's
Nice.
such a little thing,
You've
but
got 21 feet to the cup from here.
it was so tedious to do. I definitely tried to copy that for sure. It's like it's just a nice little touch that adds to the environment, and it's one of those things where it's just like, hey, you had to place every single
nice
thing
putt.
by hand in this game. It was crazy.
All right, 2
So
under
it's just
is
like
your
all these
adjusted
like little
score
things
after
that
that
don't seem that impressive, or the the result of dozens of hours of work, that kind of thing. It's just like I appreciate the effort and the skill that
Looks
went
like
into
you'll
just
be in
like
the
little
short
tiny
stuff
details
here.
that just don't like that aren't that impressive anymore. also think it is a little funny of
Okay,
all of the
looks like
pop-ups
we
I
are
get
about
for
225
so-and-so's playing
yards to the
2K25 First Look in my friends list, because that's kind of what everyone's doing. And I'm just like, I'm playing TGC 1. I'm doing the complete opposite. No. Again, I think this is, I'm having fun with this project. I am enjoying this walk through memory lane and just appreciating some old stuff that's gonna go away. I don't imagine like a lot of people are really gonna care about any of this, nor do I think they should necessarily. But I'm having fun with it and I'm enjoying it. So hopefully the
Five-footer
end
here,
result
nothing
of
too
this
bad.
product or project is just something that maybe
Nice,
somebody
that'll
else will
work for
also
par.
enjoy this.
All right, 2 unders, your adjusted
Maybe
score after
in
that hole.
5 years or whatever we'll hit another level of just like, or even just like the really nicely made retaining wall stuff, the little bridge out of more retaining wall things. I think we did no, we definitely had some bridges at the time, but they were um uh you know, we had less bridges, but we still had functional bridges. Oh yeah, especially there's a handful right there next to me. They're cool to see, but it's also nice to see people do like
All right,
building little custom
we're
things.
right around
which is
165 yards out.
doable, but a lot harder in the old game, just because there's less stuff to build it with. Also, yes, this is another little fun tidbit of just like, oh, this is back when we had
Sweet.
like I think we still have the Swilken Bridge kind of, or the genericized Swilken Bridge model.
This one for the save.
We also had the genericized. I cannot remember what the bridge on the 12th hole at Augusta is called. I know it has a name, and I'm
All
just
right,
blanking
2
on
unders,
it.
your adjusted score after
whatever.
that hole.
I apologize if somebody's screaming. It's called this. Like I know it has a name. I don't remember what it is right now. I'm sorry if I'm annoying people with that. But we had the generic version of that bridge that they have since retextured due to probably in all of the Augusta National kind of what do you want to call it? All of their kind of like DMCA takedowns for various like people illegally using their IP
right,
and
next
building
one's for birdie.
replicas. I think they probably had like hey, also you have a version of our bridge in there. Maybe you should change that. So now it's like a big bright brick color.
All right, nice little 2-foot putt.
Instead of the stone that
I'll
it was
pretend I didn't see
originally,
it,
because
if
it's
it helps
the
you.
oops. Maybe
Next hole coming up.
obviously it's not exactly the same. It is still genericized, but it's probably
Alright,
close
sitting at
enough
1
where
under
since
after that hole,
Augusta
that's your
is
adjusted score.
having to poke around in this game periodically anyways, that they just go, hey, can you get rid of that too? I think it is funny.
Beauty.
Again, it's another sign of how far this game has come and how big it's gotten, is that, there's still, I think they've had to scrub some of them.
This one's for birdie.
I don't think Magnolia, Magnolia National is still in the game in the same way.
Let's see how these numbers add up.
But there's still, and
Right,
there's
and
so many
1 under
more
is your
like
adjusted score after
RCRs
that
of
one.
real famous courses that exist in all of these old games
Not
that just
the
never
cleanest
drew
swing.
any attention and nobody ever really cared to pull down, and still haven't. No, mostly that's because like there's only like 2 or 3 courses in the world that feel litigious enough to go look for stuff, or like
Okay, about 185
where
yards
their
left to
digital
go
media
here.
rights are worth enough where they want to go pull stuff down so that they can sell it, as opposed to people being able to access it for free. Like it's basically just St. Andrews, Pebble Beach, and Augusta. Like I think those are the only
Sweet.
ones that. There might have been 1 or 2 other ones that have had histories of being taken down. I think we lost 1 or 2 other ones. I don't remember what
Nice.
those were, but
This one is saved.
I don't know. And also, it's just funny if just
Great putt.
people
and
used
that
to
is
love
for
making
par.
RCRs, and they still do. But like as
under
as
par
more
to
of those
end
get
things
added
here.
as
Well
official
done.
courses, and
All right,
like
now
there
at the end of
becomes
this
more and more
one,
legal issues around building real courses, play Hackamore. I'll do it when I get there. God. Also, hi Maddie. was fun. I enjoyed that a lot more than I was expecting. And also, I might be getting to the end of stuff that's like really worth playing. Like Low Course is memorable for being it's a solid enough little course. But it's more memorable for being like one of the Q School courses in TGC2 that just wrecked people's faces. So it has it had quite the reputation for just being just a massive dick punch. And so that, like, I might poke around that one in TGC2. Same with, like, Caramel Creek. I think that one becomes an official course. That might be worth poking around later. And I've already looked at Truro, so I think we're at a point where, also Ellie Cliffs, I think, that's another RJ Wills one that was another big standout. I can poke around that one. And then we also have, I think, Matt Getty's first course. I think we can do both of those. It'll push the episode a little longer, but I think it seems like a good place to end it for this preview. I think or preview's the wrong word. For the TGC1 portion of this series. Now, I will definitely do an episode where I just poke around the designer, because that's definitely going to be part of this thing. It's just seeing how far all of the tools and stuff have come. Checking out old designs. Yes. I'm going through and both highlighting and
we are right around
reminiscing. That's the word I'm looking for, over old stuff before they shut the servers down in a couple weeks. And then just doing a video series.
Swing.
Fun fact is, because Geddes is one of those guys who started out in this game before splines were a thing. I believe when he builds courses, he still uses shapes. I think he and maybe that's changed, but as of like the last game, I think he still constructs all of his fairways and things like he did in this game by just using shapes, which blows my mind.
Way to drop.
So he's probably the single best person in the world at constructing surfaces that way.
The first hole.
He's probably the only one who still does it. But also, he is really good at it anyways, so... But yeah. So anyway, so like this portion of the of this kind of series, I didn't highlight any of my courses. I didn't really focus on any of the official courses. I will, and then, yeah, I will do, so I think the next episode will be on the designer. If you're not interested in the designer at all, you can skip that one. And then also, I think I'll loop back around and poke around some of the official courses and my stuff. But, again, I don't think that's, like, all of those... like I will still be able to access all of those and do videos on all of those after the servers go down. So it's not as urgent for me. I'd rather focus on the stuff that's more time critical.
Good stuff.
Are these on YouTube? Yeah, they will eventually all be on YouTube. I believe the first 2 or 3 episodes of this series are up on YouTube currently. This is the 4th one,
let's keep
I
going.
believe. The first 2 are up on YouTube right now, and I'll upload the 3rd one maybe this evening or something. So the answer is some of these are on YouTube. Eventually, they will all be on YouTube. But yeah, and then this one is obviously live on Twitch right now. So this one will eventually be on YouTube, but I have the videos for the first 3. I obviously don't have the video for this one yet because it's live. I did not hit that very well. When you first played this back in the day, you had no idea there was a community. You only figured out that during the COVID era. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously everyone stumbles into this during
man. All right, nice little 2-foot putt. All right, take a gander.
Or everyone finds it at their own. Actually, that's true. And the community was so much smaller during the original TGC days. If you didn't know that like the HB forums or the TGC Tours site existed, that was the extent of what this community was. It was 2 message boards, and they weren't really like publicized anywhere. You would have to have figured out what TGC Tours was by like seeing the name and either by word of mouth or by seeing it in like the name of tournaments in this game, and having to go seek that out. And or just knowing that the HB forums existed and going in and seeking out people there. Which I'd have to check just for giggles. I wonder if the HB forums still exist. I know they stopped using them around TGC2 or 2019, and they moved to.
Let's see if we can.
They moved to 2K forums, which just never really took off. And so now it's kind of splintered a little bit. The TGC Tours forum still exists, but that's always been kind of a subset of the community.
Ooh.
But that one at least has existed for a while.
And after that one, your adjusted score is 3 over.
Again, it's funny, like, I am enjoying this a lot, and you can see a lot of the hallmarks of a Geddes course in this already.
And from here, we're right around 170 yards out.
Oh yeah, I think I was making or I was gonna say something and got sidetracked by reading and replying to comments. I think I'll loop back and I'll at least certainly loop back and do some of the official courses for giggles. And then I'll probably highlight some of my stuff if folks want it. Just I'll do that kind of as some bonus episodes at the end. But
okay, let's head to the next hole.
For the first handful of, or like the main series, I guess I'll call it. I want to focus more on community stuff that isn't mine.
That was launched.
And I suppose I'll have to at least mention some more of my stuff as we go forward, since excited to design in 25.
Okay, we're looking at
yes,
around 170 yards here.
I am very excited to design in that game. It looks fantastic. I already have so many ideas, I have a list of 5 courses I already want to start, and I don't even have access to it yet. I think we're going to see kind of an explosion of creativity in the new game that we haven't seen since 21 came out, and or that both in terms because of the new tools and also because of COVID. That's a putt. Let's go.
Was absolutely fine putting. All right, you're
adjusted. I think I'm going to stop at 9 holes on this one, just because. It's solid, but I'm not like. I also want to. I have this one and one more course to feature. I might do 9 holes for both of them. Because it's I need to use the restroom here shortly. And also, keeping this under 2 hours is probably not a bad idea. I think we're hitting the end of what makes sense for this, I'm feeling like we have done a lot of TGC1 content for sure. I think
it a good hack.
The point has been
in the
made,
right direction,
or at least we've highlighted enough stuff. Oh,
nice! This one's for birdie.
Hopefully I will circle back and cover a little bit more of it later. But
all right, your adjusted score is 1 over par after that one.
This is just a lovely little view. I like this. Some nice framing.
Beauty.
There will be a rookie contest for this new game, right? You missed the last one. Yes, there should be. I don't know when exactly, but we are planning on hosting a rookie contest for sure.
Okay, 21 feet to the cup.
That being said, also if so when the new game comes out, we'll be kicking off World Cup immediately. Now the main field is invite only. Just because
let's see what the scorecard's saying.
The demand for it is huge, so you have to
after adjustments
pick
on that hole.
People, but also there is a alternate contest for it, and that is completely open. So if you don't wanna wait and you wanna hop right into design contests, then
Nice. Should be in the fairway.
You can start on a course. You can start on a course right for that out of the gate, whenever as soon as the new game comes out.
Hope this one bites.
Now, it's one of those where, like, I think there's 4 guaranteed spots.
Okay, and nice and safe. Still a little work to do though.
From the alternate contest that will get into the field. So there's guaranteed to be 4 people from the alternate contest that will make it into the main field. And then there's a possibility
Slightly
for
to
more
moderately
people as people
disappointing
from the main field drop out. So, like, anywhere from 4 to, like, let's say reasonably, like, 10-ish, maybe 15 on, like, a really, like, if there's a crazy amount of people dropping out for some reason.
Okay, let's see how these numbers add up now.
So yeah, so it's really one of those of, like, technically
one, your
it is
adjusted
a
score is 3
invite-only limited field, but realistically, like, if you build a great course that could win the contest, you are guaranteed to get in. There is a yeah, and again, like, to a certain extent, it keeps the that best of the best, like, strongest field in in, like, the contest circuit thing going on, but also it means that that we don't have to gatekeep, like, because that kind of sucks too, where you have to keep people out purely for in the past, especially when contests exploded and sign up, like, people were waiting for sign-ups, like, essentially it's just like, oh, the field filled up in 3 hours upon
Hello there, and
sign-ups
welcome
being
to this
opened,
first hole,
and when you
par
do it first
4.
come first
See what we
serve,
can do
and there's
out
lots
there.
of people of just like, hey, I'm the defending champ of this contest, and I couldn't get in because I was at work, and I missed the 2-hour window in
Definitely
which I
wasn't
could have
solid
signed up.
contact.
So, at that point, then we started having to, like, implement priority systems and things like that, just so, like, the best designers who, like, had winning track records and could win contests could actually get into fields. At this point, with the new gen consoles, are there a decent amount of designers in console too? Is it primarily PC? I think there's always been a fair amount of designers on console. Like, as far as the top guys, I think it's like maybe 50% PC and then like 25% the other consoles. So it's like, console designers have always existed and have always been a big part of
We
the
all get sucked
design
into
community.
the sand. This hole, you're taking it to another level, though.
I think if with, I mean, to be fair, I don't know how this is going to run on next-gen consoles. I'm assuming it will run well, and in which case, like, if there isn't big
underwhelming, but you're out of that
downsides
sand,
of
so that's good.
designing on console versus designing on PC, then I think you'll probably see a bump in
And
designers
you're in
on
the hole
those
with a nice
console or platforms. But, like, they've always kind of
way to start
existed,
things out
so
with a nice
it's
little
not like they
par.
didn't exist before. All right, this course looks fantastic. I think this is going to be a good way to end this portion of this series.
Looks
This'll be
like
fun.
you're gonna hit some sand here.
Oh yeah, before... I'm sorry I'm so just, like, ADHD in these streams. I was yammering about, like, why we do contests the way we do.
Well, at least
And
you're
then got
out of the sand.
sidetracked by
Putting
questions.
from around
Which,
16
by all
feet
means,
out.
continue to ask however many questions you want. Like, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to chat and engage. I just,
come on,
like...
ball.
It's bad for my train of thought. Or, like, it's just going to get... or
Alright,
my
we
train of
dig out
thought's
the
going to be
scorecard
disrupted.
here.
And I'm sorry for people who have to listen back to that.
All right, your
I know it
adjusted
can be kind of
score
frustrating.
is 1 over par after that one.
But yeah, I'll hit touch back on all the little contest stuff. But I think, like,
It's looking
now
good.
that the COVID explosion of interest has died down, we don't have to worry about, like, priority lists and who gets first dibs into contests and stuff anymore. So for the most part,
And
like,
you were about
a lot of contests will just be
150
first come
yards
first
from
serve.
the pin, I'd say.
And or we've just figured out ways of just like, because the problem for contests has always just been, like, we would love to open it up and have a field of 120, but it's impossible to judge that many courses in a reasonable amount of time. So
You're on
that
the
hence
green.
why we
You're on
always
the
had to
green.
kind
All right,
of
this next one for
cap it.
birdie.
And But like since
Yes.
the demand has died down a little bit, um, like
All right,
we don't have to
sitting
do
right
that
where you
much
should
anymore,
be. Even par
which
your
is nice.
adjusted
So like,
score after that one.
and then also we've just figured out ways to like, for stuff that's like open fields, we'll just
Looking
kind of
good
do
so
a first
far?
pass screening where, like we'll probably still like generally like the limit the
Okay.
main field, and they'll
Well, you
have
ended up in
alternate
the rough.
contests and stuff
Sorry to get your hopes up there.
where it'll just be judged by one person quickly going through all of the courses. And usually,
No
like
good.
for alternate stuff, you're gonna get a wider range of quality, and it's really obvious what stuff you can kind of thin out quickly. Hence
And
that's
we
how
have about,
World
I'd say,
Cup's gonna work.
140-ish
Where it's really like,
yards from
okay,
here.
the main field is limited, or the stuff that's gonna get full judging passes. There's only 32 of those. But then, oh hey, but then there's no cap to the alternates. But the way the alternate works is Ben, the contest organizer, is just going to be the one person who goes through and does a pass on those. So, like, we are happy. Like, we are always excited for new designers to hop in and try their hand at it. Like,
All right,
learn,
a
have
6-foot
fun,
putt
do
here.
all of that sort of stuff. Like, we love having new guys in, but also like there's
Whip
going to
up.
be a lot of new guys who hop in, and it's very obvious from like
And
the
let's
first
see how
5
that adds
holes
up.
where it's like, yep, this isn't going to be
All right,
competitive
your
in the main
adjusted
field.
score is 2 over par
So
after that one.
like you'll always you'll get playthroughs, you'll get you'll get kind of you'll get your reps in and hopefully some feedback and things like that.
It's looking good.
But there's also a lot of alternate field courses where it's just like, hey, the one judge in the contest is going to play it once and just immediately recognize like, nah, this one's not going to get in. We don't
All
need
right,
to
looks like
spend
you're
more
about
time on this one.
245 yards
And that's
out
just like
at this point.
the nature of how that has to work in order for contests to run. You need quick ways to screen stuff if you're going to open up the field. I think the biggest contest we had is I believe I tried to open CC, or have an open field back when the community was a little more active, and I had something like 90 entries. It was crazy. Thankfully, the thing is, when you have that many entries, a lot of them are just going to back out. So I think we only ended up with
All right, nice little 2-foot
55 courses
All right, let's
that
check
published
the scorecard
somewhere
here.
in there. And we really had to triage it
All
at
right,
that
your
point. Where
adjusted
instead of
score
having
is
every
2
judge
over par
looking
after
at
that
every
one.
course, I divided it into pods of 12 and had 2 judges looking at all of them. So basically, the bigger the
This one's
field
looking
is,
good.
the less detailed of a judging process you're going to have. And thankfully, with that kind of thing, you're always going to end up with okay, it's generally speaking, you would always end up
This
with
one's a beauty.
2 or 3 really good courses in a pool, and it was obvious which
Very
ones were the top
nice.
ones, and
All right,
there wasn't
13-footer
too
here.
much kind of you weren't
Oh,
having
man.
to nitpick to picking the top 5 of a
Well, I'm
contest
happy to move
requires
on.
a lot of attention to detail because all of them are really good, and you're just trying to
All right, your
pick hairs
adjusted
between them.
score is 2 over par after that one.
But when you're just going through the first stages, there's a lot of yep, these 5 are not close, these
Well, I
5
guess
are
you can't
good,
hit all the
and then
fairways.
it's picking okay, if only 4 can make it, who's 4 and who's 5 is the challenge kind of thing. I don't know. There's never any perfect way to run contests. We're always kind of trying
See
to
if we can save
make
par
this
here.
up as
That
we
would be
go
nice.
along, and
the
come up
ball's
with
in.
better solutions as problems arise. Malahan says, you have a question
All right, about a
regarding
3-footer here.
World Cup of Design. What is the benefit of being invited over submitting a course as a possible alternate?
Oh, it was so close.
Essentially, there
All right,
really
give this one
is
a
no
finish
benefit
here
of
and
being
we'll move on.
invited.
All right, let's take a peek at the
Or
scorecard.
really, the benefit of being
right,
invited
4 over is the
over
adjusted
playing in the
score
alternate
after
field
that
is
hole.
you're guaranteed a spot in the main field. Is really, that's the only benefit.
That was breathtaking.
I think, generally speaking, with pool play, it's always weighted, where, the handful of obvious favorites, will be ranked 1 through 8, and then you'll have, a B tier,
from
and then
here,
everyone else is kind of in C
we're
tier or
right
whatever.
around
And that's
170
usually
yards.
done just to kind of,
Great contact.
to spread the talent out a little bit, so you're not having like the 4 best designers in the game with the 4 best courses in the contest,
For the birdie here.
all in the same pool, and 2 of them are knocked out before they even get into the bracket. So obviously you don't want that. So you kind of spread that
was going
around.
to be-
So
that was going to be
realistically,
excellent.
honestly, like if
Flurry here,
you're
nothing too scary.
like if you're
Solid
not in that
par.
like top
Well
10,
done.
then it might actually be advantageous to get in via
Right,
the
4 over
alternate
is the
list
adjusted
versus
score after that hole.
the pool, or like the what do you want to call it, an invite, because you might not, if you're seed 32 or whatever, you know, you're gonna have to face some of like 1 top 10 guy and then like 2 top 20 guys or something like that in your pool, where if you get in as an alternate, maybe you're filling the spot of one of those top 10 guys who doesn't finish, and then, you know, your competition is theoretically a little weaker. That said, like, every contest somebody goes and like wows you or like makes a huge leap where, you know, they're not ranked very high just because of their previous work, but they make a big step and they make a scary course. It's a bracketed pool kind of system, and then it goes into just head-to-head knockout brackets. So, the real, you think it's group stage and then bracket? Yeah, it is. The only advantage you really get is if you're in that like top 8 essentially, where then you're guaranteed to not have to face any of the other top 8 guys, and in theory you're facing off against designers that are like ranked lower than you.
Oh, I'm so angry that was going to be
Of course, I
excellent,
say all of these
and it
things are
wasn't.
in theory because
I wanted you to
like
have
there's been plenty of
excellence.
times where a rookie will come in
And
and
after
kick
that hole,
serious
5
ass
over,
and
your
make a
adjusted
top 5
score.
course without like any prior like history. So, you know, they'll get in that like
Looks
30
like you'll be in
second
the
spot,
short
and they'll
stuff
just
here.
decimate whoever was, you know, all of the supposedly better designers in their pool. So group stage determines
All
ranking.
right, and we are about 160
Well, the ranking's done in
yards or
advance,
so from the
essentially,
pin.
just sort of by kind of committee. Like it's basically like football college rankings. It's just a bunch of coaches trying to figure out who the best team is based on the info they have. It's the people organize the contest trying to figure out who is most likely going to make the best courses and
is for
who are
birdie.
unknowns. And then spreading out just like the known threats so that, you know, they're not all clustered together.
Let's see how the numbers add up. And after that hole, 5 over is your adjusted score.
This course is, yeah, I think this is RJ Will's second one, or at least it's the second one that I have in my list. It's an early
Nice,
one of
should be
his.
in the fairway.
Jump, the Ellie Lynx one was great, but there's a big jump in just the quality of this one. I think this is fantastic. Now you have the itch. Oh, 100%. Hop in, man. We're happy to have you. Alternate contest should be awesome. And like, again, we're always poised for like every single contest. There's always one unknown who makes a huge leap and becomes just like a, you know, a powerhouse designer. Somebody, you know, who either is new and has skill and just hadn't really made anything before,
yeah, you hit
or
the
just
green net
somebody
under
who figures
regulation on
stuff
this
out
one.
and goes
Saved
from just
this
kind of
next
being
putt.
new and
On that
excited to just being like good at it.
Yes.
You think an alternate made quarterfinals last time? 100%. Like,
And
and that
after
was
that one,
that was
your
going to be
adjusted
my
score is
prediction.
3
Is
over.
that whoever that we would get somebody in at least the top 8 and probably the top 4 out of the alternate field.
Heading for the green here.
Like, every contest has somebody who stands out, and I think we're poised to have even more of that than normal. 100%. Everyone has a chance. That's the beauty of it. I love how it's organized this year.
On the
Narwhal
green
says
with
the only things
some
you've
work
done
to
in the
do.
past have
All
been some
right,
design league
25
stuff.
footer
You've
from
been
here
close
to
to
the
publishing like 4 courses. You'd say you're better than the average rookie, but probably far off from actually doing anything. Yeah, and that's fine. Like, To me, the real value of contests is learning from like
Oh,
established
just missed the
designers and kind
birdie.
of getting
So
your
close.
name out
Maybe a
there.
par here, though, huh?
Like you know,
And after that one, your adjusted
like
score is
to a
3
certain
over.
extent, it's like contests aren't really like meant to be like an advertising thing for people, but you know, the design community tends to follow contests, and like if you like, it's easier to find somebody who enters a contest and makes something like that might have some rough edges but has promise than like that same course just randomly
Well,
posted
looks like this
in a
may be in
flood
the
of
deep
other
stuff.
just kind of random courses. And like most folks in the community are very knowledgeable,
I thought for sure you were heading
very
for
like
trouble with that last shot. But you proved
like
me wrong.
willing to help,
Sweet.
and or like and are nice people for the most part. So like somebody who pops in and shows promise and
Looks
is
like a
eager
24
to like
footer from here.
just pick up stuff and like learn, like odds are like people are going to go out of their way to help you.
Oh my goodness, that was so close. All right, let's see how this adds up.
And it's just fun, like
Right,
you
4
know,
over is the adjusted score.
I'm at a
after
point
that
in
hole.
my design career where ultimately it's just like, hey, I've been at this forever and I've won a few contests, and like
All right, looking good so far.
I'm an old name in the community, but I also don't like, I'm not really like a threat anymore. I think I can make some big steps and maybe get back to that
All
spot,
right,
but
looking at
like
150 yards ish.
I don't expect to be in that top tier. Like I'm probably going to be middle of the pack in terms of rankings. I mean, even like last year, I made what I thought was one of my best courses,
All
and I
right, on
didn't
the
even
green.
make it out of group
Okay,
stage.
for the
So
birdie.
like, you know, like I
Sweet.
think the best I've ever done in World Cup is maybe round of 8, getting knocked out of
And
that.
after that
I
one,
would
your
love
adjusted
to make it
score
to the
is
round of
3
4,
over.
but I'm almost at a point where it's just like I don't know if that's in the cards anymore. It's just like there's too many
This is
people
a
in the
beauty.
community now that are just outright better at it than I am. And like I'm still learning and improving, and I'm a better designer than I've ever
Yeah,
been.
stand
But
corrected.
everyone
It's
else
the
is
deep
getting
stuff for
better
you.
faster, so I'm a little, like I don't know if I'm ever gonna catch back up, and that's okay. But I have fun with it. It's hard to stand out with a
Right back
Parkland
on the
course,
fairway.
though. I mean,
See
I
about hitting
guess
that
so, but I've
green
also
up there.
never. Oh, I guess you mean with my other one. Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
Looking good.
This time around, though, I'm
Okay,
fully
this one
in just
to
like
save
the.
par.
I've always worried a little bit about like, oh, is this idea gonna like pop for World Cup?
Oh,
Is
that
this
was
gonna
going
is
to
this
be
gonna play with the
glorious,
judges? And
but
I'm
it
fully
just
past
didn't
caring
go.
about that.
Sorry,
And,
sorry about
like,
that.
all I
5
care
footer
about
here,
this
nothing
time
too
around
bad.
is this what I want to make?
Well, I'm glad you sunk that one. That's for bogey.
I mean, and then to be fair, like
Right, 4 over
Matt,
is the adjusted
like
score after
the
that
World
hole.
Cup winner last year was a Parkland course. Tanner won with Highland Park because it's fucking awesome. Like I think, having
This one's
like
looking good.
having a spectacular setting is always great, but I don't think that's like the judging pool is matured enough, I guess. Like everyone's been around long enough, like
For the bird.
I don't know if judges are easily wowed by eye candy as they used to be. And I think like especially like for the top courses,
Okay,
they're not
let's
playing
finish
it
out.
once. They're playing all
And
these
let's see
courses
what
like
the
a
scorecard
dozen
says.
times. And the better golf is going to kind of shift
Alright,
to the
4
or,
over is the
sift
adjusted
to the
score
top.
after
That's
that
the word
one.
I'm looking for. Like the pretty eye candy courses that get old after 3 rounds are gonna lose to that
It's looking
like
good.
kind of standard looking course that just gets better every time you play it. But yeah, something like to a certain extent, like yeah, you're not gonna get a big pop early on with a Parkland course. But I think if the bones of it are good enough, then you can absolutely win with a Parkland course. Was Strathmore a World Cup of Design entry? I think it was. It was certainly a contest entry. I can't remember if it was World Cup or not. Oh yeah, it won in 2021. So it's like yes, you can absolutely win with something like that, but I'm trying to remember who won before Tanner did. Who was 2022?
Okay, 11-footer here. This is definitely makeable. Gah.
Petra won with Drinkwater. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get out
I
of here.
thought Petra still hasn't won a contest. Maybe I'm wrong. Or, I don't know. It's been
Right,
so long.
4
Maybe
over
you're
is the
right.
adjusted score after that hole.
I know he's gotten second a bunch. I just couldn't remember him winning one. He's absolutely good enough to have won.
It's
Or to
looking
have
good.
won. It's not a slight on him. It's just there's a certain amount of chance that comes to winning, and he just hadn't gotten. Yeah, I agree, Malahan. That's a great point.
Okay, about 130 yards out.
Also, I guess I am at the end of this round, and this is where I wanted to cut this stream. So for all of you guys in chat, I'm gonna do the designer portion of this here in a minute. So for all of you in stream, I will be back in a couple minutes. I'm just going to get a glass of water because my throat is drying out, use the restroom, and cut the video and start a new one for the designer portion
Sweet.
of this episode.
This one's for birdie.
Actually, maybe I'll make that the designer and the official course portion of it, because I don't know how
Awesome.
much content I'm going to have in the designer. It could be a quick one.
All right, 3 over par for your
There we
round
go.
today.
There is
And 3 over par
LA
is your
Cliff's
adjusted
fantastic
score for the
course,
end of the
and I
day.
think a wonderful way to end this portion of the retrospective. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next episode, the designer one. And if you're not interested in that, I think we're going to catch you in TGC 2 when we move on to the next game. So for those of you in chat, I'll see you in a minute. And for those of you on YouTube, we'll see you in the next one. All right, have a good one. We'll talk to you later.